On April 7th of this year, I wrote an article on my website, avoidthemark.com, called Worldwide Coronavirus Response Violates Nuremberg Code. And at the time, in April 7th, when we were only a few weeks into the initial lockdowns, this probably didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. Today, it's going to make a lot of sense to everybody, especially those of you in Britain, in the UK, with the Pfizer vaccine being deployed as a weapon against you in the next week or so we're told. So I wanted to revisit this article and read it in this video, and I will include a link to the article, and within the article are all of the reference links for you to look at all the information yourself and verify for yourself what I'm telling you. Again, it's called Worldwide Coronavirus Response Violates Nuremberg Code. It says, if you're not familiar with the Nuremberg Code of 1947, it's by far one of the world's most influential documents ever created in the history of clinical and medical research. The Nuremberg Code was crafted over 70 years ago following many nefarious medical experiments during World War II. The document established on an international scale the 10 ethical principles for protecting human subjects from unsafe medical experiments in the future. Details of the Nuremberg Code. The aim of the Nuremberg Code was to protect all people from enduring the exploitation and cruelty that World War II prisoners were forced to endure in the concentration camps. The Code's 10 elements are: 1. Voluntary consent is essential. 2. The results of any experiment must be for the greater good of society. 3. Human experiments should be based on previous animal experimentation. 4. Experiments should be conducted by avoiding physical, mental suffering, or injury. Number 5. No experiments should be conducted if it is believed to cause death or disability. Number 6. The risks should never exceed the benefits. Number 7. Adequate facilities should be used to protect subjects. 8. Experiments should be conducted only by qualified scientists, not military or nurses. Number 9. As you can see, pretty much every one of these is the opposite of what's happening right now with the COVID-19 vaccination. Number 9. Subjects should be able to end their participation at any time. Number 10. The scientist in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment when injury, disability, or death is likely to occur. And again, you can read all of what the Nuremberg Code is within the link on this article. Nuremberg Code significance. The Nuremberg Code is one of many documents that laid the foundation and principles of good clinical practice, or GCP. GCP is an attitude of research excellence that provides the standards for conduct, analysis, interpretation, and study design. It's much more than a single document. In fact, it's a full compilation of a wide array of ideas, thoughts, and lessons that have been learned through the history of worldwide clinical research. Since the introduction of the Nuremberg Code, its principles have been expanded upon further in documents such as the Belmont Report, Common Rule, and the Declaration of Helsinki. Again, I link all of those. Go read them. Although there have been several updated guidance practices to the GCP that help reflect new technologies and trends, such as electronic signatures, the principles remain the same to this day. The overarching goal has always been, and should always be, to keep the safety and security of all human subjects protected during medical experimentation, which, remember, this is. There was no animal experimentation. Whether I believe that helps or not is not the point. The point is it is in direct violation of the Nuremberg Code, and there are significant penalties for that. Now, this is where the UK comes into play. This section is called UK Coronavirus Bill. It was HC Bill 122, destroys the Nuremberg Code. Now listen to this. Again, I wrote this article on April 7th. It says, on March 19th, 2020, the UK Parliament introduced HC Bill 122, otherwise known as the Coronavirus Bill. The bill was fast-tracked and received the royal assent, the final stage in the process, on March 25th, 2020, thus making it law. And I linked that as well. Many details of the new UK law are in direct violation of the Nuremberg Code in a number of highly disturbing ways. Details of the law read as such. You ready for this? Number 1. Forced detention and isolation can be of anyone, including children, and for any amount of time. Number 2, authorities can forcibly take biological samples from your body. Your body becomes the property of the state. Number 3, there's no clear access to legal rights from as yet unidentified isolation facilities. There's no clear access to legal rights from as yet undefined isolation facilities. This is all in HC 122 in the UK. Number 4, powers last up to 2 years with reviews every 6 months. Number 5, lockdown powers could prevent protests against measures. Well, we've seen that happen, haven't we? Number 6, state surveillance safeguards weakened. Number 7, protections from forced detainment and treatment under Mental Health Act drastically lowered, which means you can be detained and forced into treatment under a mental health umbrella, even if you're perfectly fine, just because you're disagreeing with the state. This passed in March in the UK, if you didn't know. Number 8, cremations can be enforced against personal and religious wishes. Number 9, changes to the court system and death registrations. Number 10, no inquests into suspicious deaths. No requirement for any medical certification for burials or cremation. And number 11, the most frightening part, only one medical quote-unquote officer is required to sign off compulsory treatment order, which means an individual can be forced to accept medication or held down and injected with whatever is seen fit. Only one medical officer is required to sign off compulsory treatment order, which means an individual can be forced to accept medication or held down and injected with whatever it's seen fit. This in direct violation of Nuremberg Code number 1. As you can clearly see, HC Bill 122 completely disregards 1947's Nuremberg Code in many significant ways. Nuremberg Code number 3, human experimentation should be based on previous animal experimentation. A key component to the Nuremberg Code is that all medical experiments must be avoided until they are first tested on animals. This required step has been disregarded by Bill and Melinda Gates funded biotechnology company Moderna Therapeutics, the organization in charge of developing the highly controversial new coronavirus vaccine. Again, this was from April that I wrote this. But we're seeing Moderna's probably going to be the one they roll out in the U.S. Moderna Therapeutics began testing on human subjects in Seattle several weeks ago, so in March, without first testing its safety in animal subjects. Jonathan Killiman, director of McGill University's Biomedical Ethics Unit, wrote in an email, quote, "Outbreaks and national emergencies often create pressure to suspend rights, standards, and or normal rules of ethical conduct. Often our decision to do so seems unwise in retrospect," end quote. The typical vaccine development process takes between 15 to 20 years, according to Mike Feinberg, CEO and president of the International AIDS Vaccination Initiative. The process requires that all scientists first administer the vaccine to animals in order to determine how effective and safe it is. It's only after passing through iterative tests in animals while being adjusted throughout the testing process that a final formulation can be tested in human trials. Will you trust the safety and long-term impact of this new coronavirus vaccine that will no doubt be forced on every living human, even against your will? Another violation of the Nuremberg Code? The Nuremberg Code is still in effect. Why is the coronavirus vaccine being fast-tracked while ignoring the key principles of the Nuremberg Code? Why are governments such as the UK blatantly disregarding the Nuremberg Code for a disease that has been proven to be far less deadly and infectious than so many other diseases? What's the real agenda, and why are we being lied to by worldwide governments and the mainstream media? So if you're late to join this video, again, this article is on my website, avoidthemark.com. I wrote it on April 7th. It's called Worldwide Coronavirus Response Violates Nuremberg Code. If I were you and I lived in Britain right now, I would take this article and this video and bombard Parliament with it. Bombard Parliament. Nuremberg Code, Nuremberg Code, Nuremberg Code. Send them this article. Send them this video. Flood them with it. I'm telling you, this is nothing to lose at this point. After what I just read you on what they've already passed on HC Bill 122 back in March, you don't have any rights at all in the eyes of the government, but you have rights in the eyes of God. It's time to look to God, and it's time to attack these idiots back.